Welcome back to the SP Streamer Podcast, now part of the Fantrax and FantraxHQ.com family. Doug Ishikawa, as always, alongside my co-host, Mr. Michael Simeone, and another fabulous guest who we will get to in just a moment. You can follow me on Twitter at CoachingIsh and Michael at SP Streamer. Michael, what's up? How's it going, buddy?
Not bad, Doug. So I started a long journey today. You want to know what that is?
Yes, take me through it.
I started watching Survivor for you.
Oh, you did. That means so much to me.
I have to say, what's the host name again?
Jeff Probst.
Jeff Probst. Yeah. Hey, he's pretty good. Now I see why you mention him a lot.
There you go. If I wore more khakis and I wore more cargo shorts and a Hawaiian shirt and a hat all the time, man, neck and neck with Jeff Probst. Well, enjoy it.
I feel like you mimic him almost. Like I felt like when I was watching him, I was like, I feel like I'm watching Doug right here.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's what I'm here to do. In the back, you can't see it, but I have, flames up and tribal councils in the back. We can vote Mike off later. We'll get to Mike Carter in a little bit here. For those of you that are joining in the live stream, welcome on in. Thanks for being with us. Michael, sensational job the other day on the PitchCom panel with Nick Pollock and Al Melchior. You held your own. You were awesome. Great job, my friend.
You too, man. You hosted.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, awesome to be a part of PitchCon. It was hanging out with some of the best in the community while also raising money for Feeding America. We would just like to thank you all that supported the cause and hung out with us. It was a great weekend of talking baseball over at with Pitcher List and PitchCon. And before we go any further, just a quick shout out to SP Streamer Nation, baby. We love you and we side hug you because all of you, you gave us the chance to move on in the exclusive baseball pods bracket that's put on by Chris. Now, we do love the Exit Velocity podcast. Brent Herzog, JR, and Zach Braff. They are as classy as they come, and you should definitely be listening to all the podcasts in this year's bracket. But we do thank you for your support, and we really do appreciate all of you. 5-Tool Pod from our Fantrax Podcast Network also moved on. So it was a really fun day discovering new podcasts and be able to be a part of the bracket. So thank you for that. On our last episode was the one, the only Eno Saris. And if you missed that one, I can only ask how. Seam shifted wake, Command Plus sandwiches and beer, and Eno. All of those topics and more were covered and talked about. He's one of the best in the community. And I, for one, learned a ton just by sitting back and listening to him. I was like in awe. It was kind of like sitting back and talking to Michael every single day. It was
yeah, okay.
Things that are on your Mount Rushmore of things to do. But we are so grateful that there are so many people willing to come on and share their love of the game with us. It's been quite an off season. And we can't wait to dive into getting to know our guest tonight a little bit better. For those of you that don't know, Michael has an exceptional eye for talent. I mean, hello, case in point right here, the Jeff Probst of the hosting world for Fantasy Baseball podcast. But we have made the joke before that his coaching tree of fantasy baseball analysts is quite impressive. You do like the coaching tree analogy, don't you, Michael?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a meh.
You're giving me too much credit.
That was a Mike Curlin meh. But here's another way of putting it. Michael discovers people and sees their talent. He's like the musical mastermind that put together the late 90s boy bands NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. He's truly made us all larger than life, as we've had talented writers and analysts such as Justin Johnson, Garrick Otler, Taylor Bauer, Peter Barston, Chris Clegg, Dave Swan, Joe Barbuto, Corey Ott. They've all passed through our hall of SP Streamer fame. We have a ton of new and exceptional writers joining the team this year as well. But not a single one of our writers, past or present, no offense, myself included, Joey Lucchesi, hold a candle to our favorite Dr. On Call and former SP Streamer writer. He pens the very popular Closing Remarks series at rotofanatic.com. He also chimes in over at 9NEKnowItAll.com. Cheers on for his beloved new revamped Chicago White Sox and is arguably the best education administrator. There you go. Since Mr. Belding. You can follow him on Twitter at at MDRC0508. Let's welcome back friend of the pod, Mr. Mike, the Dr. Carter. Welcome to the show, Mike. How you doing tonight?
Well, I'd do a lot better if my grill had started. I was telling Michael earlier, but other than that, I'm doing fine tonight, guys. We're thawing out here in Chicago and getting ready for spring, and I appreciate the kind words and the reference to Mr. Belding.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty great, Doug. It's well done, sir.
Mike, it's like 50 degrees here in Chicago, and I was telling my wife earlier, it's sad that 50 degrees for Chicagoans feels like it's like an 85-degree day, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in shorts while trying to get the grill started, so if that tells you anything. But then again, saving the suspense, I'm also fat. So one of the reasons why I wear shorts in the wintertime is because I'm, 230 pounds moving around.
Oh, man. Well,
yeah.
Mike, happy to be talking with you once again. I believe that besides Michael, you have appeared on our podcast more than anyone. You rolled through the early years of our On the Bump series, always willing to come on, always willing to drop your expertise. I was terrible. You were great. It's great to have you back. We appreciate you being with us tonight. And I apologize to you because last time that we were going to do this, my internet crapped out on me. So I ran a hard line all the way from upstairs to make sure that I could be on call with the doc tonight. I really wanted to chat about our topic tonight, and that is where I tend to tank in the draft. I'm talking about the barren, dystopian landscape that is relief pitching. Good luck this year. It's like Waterworld out there, and who better to help us find dry land than the doc? So we need to ask Mike. Let's start it off. Let's get going right into it. How do you approach closers in a draft? What is your strategy overall?
A lot of prayer and hope. No, honestly, I think league context is really dependent upon what you do. And there's a lot of different strategies that people use to kind of go through this process of finding good fits for your fantasy team. I think with the way that the landscape has changed in terms of baseball and how starters are used and how relievers are used, one of the things that I'm trying to do this year is get one of those top 5 or 6 guys and get them early. I've been taking guys in the first 4, 5, 6 rounds to get a stable base, especially in 15-team leagues, and really make sure that I'm trying to get some targets later on mid-draft and then late that might get an opportunity to step into a higher leverage role or are already good candidates for holds. The thing that we know is that the workload for relievers continues to increase in Major League Baseball, which leads obviously then to a decrease in starter innings. And there's also been a decrease in pitches thrown per start. In 2020, the average start had about 80 pitches thrown. Starter had 80 pitches thrown in a start. And 38% of starts showed fewer than 90 pitches per start. So we're seeing some trends that are happening. And I think fantasy sometimes is fast to catch on and sometimes a little bit slow to catch on. But the game's been changing for a long time. And I think finding those guys is really going to be the key. What I really try to do then, for me anyway, and this is evolving then, is get that top 5 or 6 guy and then try to speculate later on, mining these bullpens and looking at, there are as many as 17 or 18 right now. I don't know exactly how it's going to sort out through spring training. I'm trying to target 2 or 3 of those guys in the middle or towards the end of drafts as well, just to make sure that I have some idea that I don't have to go speculating in fab or different things later on for saves, because they will cost you down the road, as you guys know better than me.
So let me ask you a question, because right now when we're drafting, it makes so much sense what you're saying. I'm trying to target like those top 5 relief pitchers. And that's because we have so many question marks still as to who's going to take what role. So let's say you're drafting though a couple days before the season. And let's say like we basically know, 60% of what teams are doing and who's closing where. Would that change your strategy at all? Would you wait later, or you think you still need those top guys when there's more clarification?
I'm other than when I'm drinking, I'm usually risk averse in many ways. And so I think I probably will stick with my strategy. I've been grabbing, I don't really want to take Liam Hendriks in the 4th round, which is where I've been seeing him go, but I've been getting Diaz in the 6th or the 7th, and I'm pretty comfortable with him. I don't know how other people feel about him, but I think the skill set's really good, and I think he's going to have that job and keep it. So I've been doing that, or maybe trying to get Hader. And then I think what I would do then is maybe pivot, and then, in a 13th or 14th round, somewhere in there, maybe get somebody that you think is going to get an opportunity, the first crack at those things, a Chris Martin, a Hector Neris. We'll talk about him later, I'm sure. But somebody like that, and then speculate at the end, like a Diego Castillo or a Jake Diekman or somebody like that will give you benefit in some way, even if they don't give you saves. And again, league context matters, right? I mean, a guy like Diekman has a lot of value in a league where you're keeping holds. He led the major leagues in holds last year.
Yep.
So I think I would go that route and then see what happens. You get lucky sometimes and have a guy that gets traded or a guy who gets injured or is ineffective, and then that guy steps into the role and you've got bankable saves on your roster. You don't have to spend any money to go get them.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point that you brought up, Mike, because the other night I was lucky enough to be on with MLB Moving Averages. He brings a ton of energy.
Man, that guy's amazing, isn't he?
I was with MLB Moving Averages and Michael Govier, and I was sitting between the two of them, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but there's a ton of energy going on. But it was actually commenting on Michael Simeone as well as Matt Williams were a team in the tag team NFBC draft, and relievers were flying off the board. And Michael, for those of us that couldn't listen to the entire 6.5 hour pod that you just dropped the other day with Matt, was there, and I know that we have the doc here to ask her, but when you saw like relievers going off, did that kind of spark something within you guys to take some of those top relievers?
I mean, not really. Me and Matt came into it kind of with what Mike was talking about. Basically, we wanted to target, we wanted like one of those top 5 or 6 relievers because, again, it was 15 teams and there's so many question marks. We're like, we need someone that we have no question about. And, some people are a little bit against Edwin Diaz, but I don't think there's really going to be a short leash with him. His stuff's amazing. I think they're going to leave him there. This is, a new regime. I think finally this is the year they say, no, you're staying there. I don't care if you struggle, which I really don't think he's going to. I don't think the leash is as short as some people think. So, but anyway, to your point, we personally targeted. I mean, just because they were going off quick didn't really change for us. We were going to do that anyway, but we were kind of surprised. I mean, what happened was, in that draft, Jeff Zimmerman and I forget who he's partnered with.
Fred Zinke.
They went back to back top relievers. So that definitely changed the landscape a little bit there.
And like Mike, you were talking too, it does matter with league format. So like in the tag team draft that Michael was just in, that does have a fab, correct, Michael?
Yeah.
You are going to be like, so you can also probably wait to see what happens later on in the course of the year, because I would assume that a lot of closers are going to switch that role, except for maybe the top 5. So league format does matter. And as we go into spring training, the pitching battles really do matter. Who, Mike, would you say that you're going to be closely keeping an eye on as spring training starts to lift off the ground here?
Oh, you mean like which bullpen specifically?
Which bullpens do you think are going to have those battles that people should be tuning in for?
Absolutely. I think Cincinnati is one that really leaps out at me. I'm a huge Lucas Sims guy. There's some people that will follow me into that fray. There's others that won't, and really like Amir. You've got, there's some thought that Garrett would be the closer, but his splits in the past have not always lent itself to a lot of confidence in that regard. And David Bell has said on more than one occasion that he envisions using someone as a fireman or a stopper in the middle innings. And Garrett seems like he would fit that bill really well. I had Sims last year, Michael, in the league that we did with the reliever league. And he was actually really very good for me. And even though he didn't get a lot of saves, he helped a lot. Cincinnati's one to watch too. Doolittle's there too. They signed him for nothing. He's laying around there too, who's got closing experience, and we know how much that means to managers. That's one that I think is one to watch. St. Louis, if you can figure out, you're a better man than me. They've got well, most people are better men than me, let's be honest. But they legitimately have 3 guys that can lay claim to being a closer there, and they've got Andrew Miller as well, who a lot of people will draft based on name value, although I don't think that they should anymore. That's going to be an interesting one too. You've got Gallegos, who showed a real good propensity to do the job last year. They've got Hicks, who they seem to love. They really seem to want him to take the job. They also have Alex Reyes, who has seemingly been around forever and is like 25. It seems like he's been in the league for 7 or 8 years, but that's not the case. They have a serious situation there that bears watching, and their manager, Mike Schilt, likes to play the hot hand. So that could be a committee situation. We just don't know how that's going to play out. The other one that was really interesting to me before last week was Oakland, but then Oakland remade their bullpen in a week, essentially. And that changed things quite a bit. Those two really leap out at me. I can't talk about Tampa and be rational. So I don't, can. I don't know that I can go there either, but I think those are two that really leap out at me as ones that need some sorting out here in the coming weeks.
Who do you think for the Diamondbacks? So they have Soria. And they have, is it Crichton? I don't know.
I think I say Crichton.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I'm just terrible at names.
No, that's okay. My name is Mike Carter, by the way.
So when they brought in Soria, everyone thought, it looks like it's going to be Soria, but now they actually just, I think in the latest Minor News, they said that Crichton.
Crichton. Yeah.
Could actually, they're basically in a battle for it. If you had a guess, who do you think gets the most saves there?
I think it'll be Soria until he gets traded.
Okay.
I don't see Arizona sticking in it real long, especially in that division. It's going to be brutal. I think it'll be Soria simply because of the fact that they like experience. But here's the thing that you got to consider is that last year, you guys probably recall this because you're very keen minds, but Torey Lovullo was using Kevin Ginkel, and the front office came to him and said, we don't want you to do that. And he said, well, tough luck. I'm going to do it anyway. They sent Kevin Ginkel down to make sure that he couldn't use him. And they did a Moneyball thing on him, right? And they put Crichton in there. Crichton did a pretty decent job doing it, but his stuff doesn't really profile as the type of stuff that you'd want as a closer, right? I mean, so Soria's got the experience. Yes, he's 37 years old. I think he gets the job to start. And then if they fall out of contention, it would not surprise me at all to see them move Soria, especially to a team that's in contention that might be able to use him as a middle reliever, not as a closer, and then put Crichton in the driver's seat there.
He got Brad Pitted. Look at that. Straight up. If you tell him who to play, Brad's going to tell you while snacking. Take us through San Francisco as well. A lot of people have been speculating between a couple of names. Can you highlight some people that you're going to be watching this spring, Mike?
Sure. I don't know if you guys saw my tweet over the weekend, but I uttered it out loud at breakfast on Saturday. And I said, Jack, who's going to close for San Francisco? And he goes, someone will, Dad. And he's right on. I mean, my gut says that they would like Reyes Maranta to take that job, but he's coming off injury and uncertainty. And I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I think one of the signings that kind of fell under the radar a little bit was Jake Mcgee, who's got some experience doing that role. And they've got a couple of kind of what I would refer to as yucky options as well that they could look at. Maranta is there. Rogers did pretty well in a role last year in terms of getting some holds. But again, do you want a submarining closer? Harlan Garcia is another guy that's there that might get a look. They just cut Trevor Gott, thank God. Don't have to watch that ever again. So
he's brutal.
If I were betting, I would say that they want Maranta to do it. But again, you got to look at the manager. The manager is Gabe Kapler. We know what Gabe Kapler does to bullpens. It ain't pretty. It's a disaster. Yeah. So it's probably going to be a committee thing, and he's going to try to ride the hot hand, and it's going to blow up in his face like it does every year.
Mike, you have the hardest series to write for Roto Fanatic. I don't know how you do it every single week, but
it's a lot of staying up late on Saturday nights, which is good. My family largely wants to avoid me anyway, so it's not really that big of a sacrifice for anyone. But I stay up late and watch those West Coast games, and sometimes I'm just amazed at what I see. With the Giants are bringing out guys I never even heard of to pitch in relief, So it is a lot of fun, but it is a labor of love. The guys at Roto Fanatic are great, and they gave me a pretty wide berth to kind of create that and run with it. I just want to make sure that I don't let anybody down, and that I'm making sure that people get the best information, the most current information that we have about where we're at in those situations.
Yeah.
Well, it should be fun to watch all spring. We'll see what ensues, but Make sure to keep track of those important closer battles. But before we go any further into the world of relief pitching, let's take a quick timeout and do a live read, Mike. Stay put from our sponsor. Here we go. Support for this episode of the SP Streamer podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Valentine's Day may be over, but you still have to make sure that you're ready for whenever the night may take you. Our friends at Manscaped, the global leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming, are here to tell you that you need to use the best tools for the job so you can be ready for anything on that special day. The Perfect Package 3.0 is led by the revolutionary third-generation Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, which has advanced skin-safe technology and features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce those grooming accidents. Head into spring training with your downstairs in the best shape of its life by smelling and feeling nice all day and night. Complete your grooming game with the new refined cologne signature scent by Manscaped. Michael, you can get the new signature scent by Manscaped. It's something. I'm going to buy you some, both of you.
All right.
Because you guys are worth it. Well, with the same signature scent that's in all the Manscaped formulas. This cologne is perfect complement to the collection. Get it today and go from balk to walk off while receiving 20% off and free shipping with the code SPStreamer at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SPStreamer. All right.
Well done, Doug.
Well done.
Thank you.
When you're in your middle 40s, you don't need that. You need a weed whacker.
They do. You actually can buy
if
two,
you even
and
care
then,
anymore at that age, you know.
turn that 3.0, get 2, multiply 6, boom. You're going to be as smooth as a seal, Mike.
Oh my God.
Well, we are having a great time here with Mike Carter on the SP Streamer podcast. We've been discussing Mike's strategy when it comes to relief pitching, and have also broken down some key spring training battles that you should keep an eye on when you get into your drafts, league format permitting. Let's now move into some specific names that you're going to be targeting in the later rounds. Like you kind of talked about, you wait around, you want a guy in the top maybe 5 in the first 5 or 6 rounds. You did allude to in the 13th, the 14th, 15th round, you are looking to target some of those names. So I'm interested to hear who you got, Mike, because I am definitely in need of some serious help when it comes to closers. So who are you targeting?
Well, I know that Toronto signed Kirby Yates, and he looks to be healthy. They're saying that he's ready, and that's great for him. I don't know that I believe in how long his health is going to hold out, and I love Jordan Romano.
Yes,
I think the health for Yates raises some red flags for me. And Romano did a really nice job on a very small sample last year to make me believe in that ability set. He threw his slider about 5 miles an hour faster than what he had previously. I'm sure Michael probably knows that, but he went from about 84 miles an hour to 89 miles an hour, which is a huge difference. Granted, small sample size. And then he had a finger injury at the end of the year that kind of gave him some trouble there and lost those gains. But I'm willing to gamble late on him. At the very least, he should get holds on an improving Toronto team. And if something happens with Yates or he blows up or the elbow surgery wasn't effective, I see him as a great closer in waiting, somebody that'll step right in and take that job. Now, they also have Raphael Dolis, who I know some people like, but I think Romano's skill set outshines Dolis' skill set, in all honesty.
Yeah, I love that Romano call because not only did he add velocity, but he went to the slider more.
Yes.
And adding that velocity created a lot more vertical break on a slider, too. It's kind of more like a curveball a little bit. But, yeah, I love everything about him. I was so mad when they signed Yates because I really wanted him to be the closer. But, yeah, like you said, I feel like he's so injury-prone. I mean, he's coming off the injury, and I feel like Romano takes that over eventually. So
yeah, and Yates' stuff, even before he got injured, was starting. I mean, he had a career year in 19, right? And then or 18, I think it was. And then it started to slide a little bit, and so I think it's best to be prepared in thinking that, if you take Yates as Michael, where are you thinking? 12th, 13th closer off the board at the top end? You got to back yourself up with that. I mean, that's even too high for me. I don't think I would take him there.
No.
Mike, you got a couple more names for us that we should be targeting later rounds?
Yeah, I love Tanner Rainey. I think he's another one. I know that the Nationals signed Brad Hand, and Hand is a good one, even though, again, his stuff screams at you that it's going to regress and it might not be as good this year as it was last year. I think that Rainey is the closer in waiting there. I know Daniel Hudson, who had closed there periodically for them over the winter, said that he preferred not to close, which is an unusual thing to say, but that's how he feels. And I'm guessing that Davey Martinez will be happy to oblige. Rainey is the best arm in the bullpen. And he had 32 strikeouts in 20 innings last year, a 42.7 K percentage. I think he's a really good candidate as well. Again, the Nats should be pretty good. At the very least, he should be able to get you some holds and help you with ratios.
What about what are your thoughts on Kimbrel this year? Do you think he sticks? You think he sticks in that reliever role? And if so, if not, or if so, what do you think about Wick right behind him?
So I get to watch a lot of the Cubs, and this is going to hurt Doug a little bit with this big W flag flying behind his head. Kimbrel was great in September. Up until that point, he did not do much of anything for anyone, right? So I do think that they're serious with the amount of money that they paid him. I think that they're really serious about making sure that he gets first crack at that. But in September, he was pretty much lights out. He had a really bad a couple of very public meltdowns in Cincinnati with wild pitches and the command issues. But, the velocity is still there. The command is iffy, but if he comes out and shows that he's got that, I think they're going to ride it with him. I don't see them either being in a market where they would be able to trade him unless they're willing to eat a lot of contract. And so I think they're kind of sticking with him. He's, David Ross and he are pretty good friends, and Ross really seems to believe in him, said right away that he was the closer. I do like Wick. I think Wick offers a lot in that context as well. Again, even if he doesn't get save opportunities, he should get some holds. I'm not sure how many games the Cubs are going to win this year. They're in kind of a weird holding pattern, it seems like. But Kimbrel, I had him kind of moving up the board a little bit for me in the last couple of months. I mean, at one point I was like, oh God, I can't even put him in the top 20. And then as I started thinking about it more and doing some more research, he climbed up there. I would feel comfortable getting a guy like a Diaz or a Chapman with my first closer, and then having Kimbrel as my second closer. I'd feel really strong about that. And I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Wick down at the end of the road either, because he did a pretty nice job for them last year when he was given an opportunity. Yeah. Again, small sample size, but
yeah, I feel like you're right. He'll probably get a lot of opportunity, I guess. I want to throw one more person at you. What are your thoughts on Andres Munoz?
Okay, so you must be reading my notes because
well, I mean, a lot of people like him. I mean, I like him too. Obviously his stuff's electric. He probably won't be able to pitch till halfway through the season, but I don't trust Montero at all.
No.
And I feel like they're a mess with that bullpen, and it's just a matter of him getting healthy. And the second he's healthy and can pitch, he's going to step right in.
He posted on social media, this must have been 5 or 6 weeks ago, of him doing some mound work. And he's not even really trying yet. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's for real, right? So he reaches triple digits with ease, as you know. That slider is just a complete knockout. And in 19, when he was with San Diego, which a lot of people won't remember, he had 18 strikeouts and 31 at-bats in 2019. I mean, come on. That's completely insane, right? I mean, so if you can get him late, if you can, I would definitely take a chance on him. When I was on with Rob DiPietro, we were talking about it. He was up and down about Kendall Graveman. I'm like, no, dude, sorry. Like, I can't do that. I can't do it. I mean, he did a nice job when he had a little bit of an opportunity there, but it was like 10 innings pitched. I don't buy it.
Yeah, Graveman's a little interesting just because he upped his velocity like a lot.
He did,
and he was pretty decent in the pen. I think he might see some opportunities because, again, I just don't like Montero at all. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a Mets fan, but
it will be.
Yeah, but I think eventually, it's going to be neither of them. By the time Munoz can pitch.
And especially, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that contemplate the idea of, how much value do you get out of a pitcher that you're only going to use for half the year? But the last I heard, they were talking about him being back like June 1st. And if that holds true,
it's not too bad.
He could climb that ladder pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Getting a bit league specific, let's talk about some names that fantasy players should be targeting in those saves and holds leagues. Mike, who are some players that carry some value in this type of setting, this type of league format?
Oh, sure. There's a lot. I feel like for players of the level of seriousness that you guys are, you guys already know about the Diekmans and the Aaron Bummers and the people like that of the world that are going to be really high performers in that regard. A guy that I really like this year. You want me to start American League or National League, Doug? Where
you can go anywhere you want to, Mike. You're the master at this. I'm just here for the ride, my friend.
Oh my God. We were maligning Tampa earlier, but I think Pete Fairbanks and Diego Castillo are guys that you are going to be able to get something out of. I do think, and I'm going to go on a limb on this one, and I know I'll get a lot of criticism for it. I really think that at some point, Kevin Cash is just going to sit down and say, look, we have to have one guy close. Like, we can't. I felt like last year with the situation that they were in, that they were just kind of playing game by game and trying to survive the day and kind of throw whoever was out there. I mean, I think my son Jack even had a save for them last year, I think. So, but I think that this is the year that Nick Anderson just becomes the closer. And I don't have any reason to believe that other than just
like a gut feeling.
And he's just too damn good to continue to waste, and I know that Cash says, 6th or 7th inning, the game is, won or lost there. That's true. But Anderson is really good. And his psyche really seems to show that he needs a stable role. And I think if they just give him the closer role, I think he's a top 5 guy, honestly, if he comes through. But I love Pete Fairbanks and Castillo. They're guys that definitely have value, especially in those holds leagues. Another guy that I'm really interested in too, that is kind of flying. I don't want to say he's flying under the radar, but people look at Cleveland's bullpen and are enamored, rightfully so, of Karinchak, right? Michael, I'll say it's Karinchak. That's how you say it.
Thank you.
But I'm not convinced he's going to be the guy. I mean, he's got a live arm, obviously, but they also have a guy named Emmanuel Clase that they got from Texas in the Kluber deal, and he's kind of a similar guy. And they might want to, make sure that they give him an opportunity there. So I love Clase. I know a lot of people know Nick Whitgren for holds, obviously, but Clase is a guy that I think definitely has value there. Those are a couple guys that leap out at me in the American League. I really like Kansas City's bullpen too, which we can talk about as well. Stallmont. Barlow's pretty good too. And Kyle Zimmer last year really kind of came on too. And there might be space for him somewhere in there as well. They also have Wade Davis, if anyone's interested.
No thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we'll skip on him.
I totally agree. And then one other guy that I think in the American League that is an interesting guy is Enoli Paredes from Houston. They have Pedro Baez and Blake Taylor in there to back up Presley, who Presley actually sneaks up higher in your rankings too now because he's got the job and there's nobody's going to fight him on that. But Paredes is a guy that I think if something happened to Presley, I think he could hop over both Taylor and Baez and be the closer.
Take me into the National League now, Mike. Who you got there? I want to hear it all. We got you here.
The Mets have an incredible bullpen potentially. Trevor May is going to get a lot of holds. Lugo, depending on holds. Betances, if he's healthy, might be able to get in there too. Another guy that I really, really like that I'm kind of cataloging for later too is Brusdar Graterol. I think a lot of people think, people that I've talked to anyway, think that Kenley's on the way down, and he is. Although if you look at his StatCast, he's still pretty blood red and he's still looking pretty good. They got a lot of competition there, and I think a lot of people think it'll be Trinan, but Trinan really doesn't have. He gets a lot of ground balls, but he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts anymore. And I could see them going to a higher octane guy like Graterol in that situation, bypassing Trinan, and they also have Corey Knebel as well. But God only knows what you're going to get out of him. He hasn't pitched in a while. He was hurt. So those are some guys that I really like there. Another name that I like in the National League, two other names to catalog for later, not necessarily guys that this year are going to have great impact, but Pittsburgh is a mess, as everyone knows, and they've got a young guy named Blake Cederland that I have some interest in that might be a name to dog ear for later. And Miami also has a guy named Zach Pop that I have some interest in as well, that I could catalog for later. Not people that I would probably draft at this point, but people that I would have dog-eared if I ran into a situation where I needed to have a reliever or somebody that I was looking to speculate on. I'm not completely in love with either one of their closing options.
Okay. I like that. Well,
Yeah.
I have to also throw this in the chat because, we've had Yancey Eaton here the whole time.
Oh, Yancey.
Give Yancey what he wants. Who's he talking about here, Mike?
Oh,
Garcia.
Yeah, but Yibi's not going to be the closer, Yance. I'm sorry, buddy. It's going to be Bass.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Bass too, unfortunately.
Well, they say Mattingly in an interview said that he would prefer Garcia not to close. And it makes me wonder if maybe he's thinking about using him in a multi-inning role like a lot of teams are thinking about doing.
Right.
And Bass is he's very underrated. I mean, he gets the job done. Not sexy, but he gets it done.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think they signed him to make him the guy there. I don't think they're putting him in the 8th.
Well, Mike,
Agreed.
You have helped paint a Bob Ross type of happy picture for me on relievers, my friend. I feel better overall, but I'll still probably screw it up in the upcoming TGFBI draft. But that's not your fault. It's solely mine. But before we get to our last segment of the night, we did put up on Twitter asking some questions for the doc here. Michael has just shared that with me. So, Michael, why don't you take it away?
He definitely cannot find the
got a little
as I bring it up because of my technology.
All right, so the first one's from Art at Art_T_Z. One of the
he's such a great dude.
One of the co-hosts of Triple Play. Yeah, and also writes for SP Streamer. You answered the first part of his question, so I'm going to ask you the second part. Do you think anyone will grab the Orioles job from Hunter Harvey?
No.
All right. What do you expect from him?
I think they really want him to be the guy. He's 26. It's time. It's time to see what he really is. They have no reason not to try him because they're going to suck. Yeah. So, and they're in the probably the toughest division in baseball. Well, I guess that's arguable, but one of the toughest divisions in baseball. Dylan Tate is a guy that's there that it has some interest as well. He's a high round draft pick, another guy that I would have some interest in. But I think it's Harvey. I don't think Valdez he's 35. He's a changeup guy. I don't see him really kind of getting that role. I know a lot of people also really like Tanner Scott, but Brandon Hyde has said so far this spring as well that he prefers to use Scott in higher leverage situations. I think it's going to be Hunter Harvey. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. Our next question comes from Zach Braff at BRAFZ. I'm terrible at doing Twitter handles, obviously. Who are your top 3 next man up options if someone struggles to start the season or get injured? I know we talked about a couple, but
well, the first one that leaps out at me really is Drew Pomeranz. I think Melanson's going to close in San Diego. I don't see why they wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. But he's 35, and he's not a high strikeout guy. Less than 6 strikeouts per 9 last year. He could fade quickly, and they could find themselves in a situation where they go to Pomeranz. Let's see, other ones. Yeah, I could see. Kansas City, Greg Holland, he's an injury waiting to happen. I mean, I would think in a situation there, if he were to become injured or be ineffective, it would be Staumont.
Or they might trade him too.
Yeah, they could trade him very well too. They also have Wade Davis. Did I mention that?
No, thanks, Mike. I have already covered that, but continue.
No, I know. And I think the other one that kind of, thinking about it leaps out at me too a little bit is Boston. I mean, I know some people think Matt Barnes is going to perform better, and God knows that anything that he does better would be an improvement over what he did last year. But they got Adam Ottavino, and Ottavino is a guy that could take that spot from him pretty easily if he's effective. They also have a guy named Darwinson Hernandez, who I think could leapfrog in there too as well and get some save opportunities. It's hard to say with Boston. I mean, Barnes could be better, but his control is not exactly what you would want for a guy that's coming in the 9th inning. So,
Michael,
All
take
right.
the last question in your Twitter segment.
The last question comes from Davey Lou, and he says, if you were to draft 2 or more pitchers from any big league team, so aka a committee, which players and team would you pick and why?
Is it wrong to pick Milwaukee?
No.
I mean,
whatever you think.
So I'm really torn on this one. This has been a hard one for me because they've got Hader and Williams, who obviously are, probably 2 of the 10 best relievers in baseball. However, if you draft Hader with the idea that he's going to get you 30 saves, you might be really upset because there could be a situation where they revert back to having Hader come in and be the stopper in the 6th and 7th inning and then use Williams to close. Now, both have an insane amount of value, but I think again, it's that context, right? I mean, if I'm looking for somebody to get 30 saves, I might not draft Josh Hader.
Now you've.
I don't know. I mean, it's to me, it's something you got to.
Yeah, I get it. You're right. We don't really know what they're gonna do. I mean, I feel like Williams will probably grab a few. I don't know.
Yeah, because they may just move Hader everywhere, right? He could just come in and be the stopper in any situation that you have, and then you have a guy like Williams, and he could just sit there and close out the games for the Brewers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see guys. I think you're going to see it happen a lot this year, and you did last year too. You're going to have a lot of guys that have a handful of saves, 5, 6 saves on teams where they have uncertain situations, or in situations where, depending on the way that the games are played and if there's double headers and whatnot, guys that are going to get a handful of opportunities. And so those guys have a lot of value, especially if you can vulture a few saves out of them. But I don't know. I mean, the Milwaukee situation, as good as those guys are, it's unclear to me exactly what they're going to do. And I think you have to bake that in when you start drafting. I've seen Hader going in the top 60, 65 picks in certain places. And I'm like, great if he closes. If he doesn't, that's a really high priced guy to get strikeouts,
Well, Davey Lou is here. I am going to throw his question up in the chat. Would you consider Alex Colomé as well as Rogers too, Mike?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I know a lot of people don't like him. I like Taylor Rogers a lot. I think he had a lot of bad luck last year. When you really look at the stats and look at what he did, there were a couple of games where he just couldn't get anybody. Having been a White Sox fan my entire life and seeing Colomé the last couple of years, he's kind of living on borrowed time a little bit. I mean, he's not old, but the stuff that he throws a cutter like 80% of the time. It's always, and it's not a Mariano Rivera cutter, I can assure you.
No.
So does he implode? I mean, in a way, I hope he does because he's in Minnesota and I'm a Sox fan. I want to beat those guys. But I think it's going to be a timeshare. I think Rocco Baldelli is a Tampa Bay guy. He was raised in the Tampa Bay system. He was raised by Kevin Cash. He's going to do the same shit that they do in Tampa. He's going to drive you crazy. If you draft Colomé with the idea that he's going to get you 25 saves, you're probably going to be wrong. It's going to be.
I mean, projection systems have him around 20. I feel like it's going to be somewhat of a committee. I think, and I'm sure you would agree, though, I would guess Colomé gets the most saves there.
I would say it's probably a 60-40 split,
right?
Maybe 70-30. But Baldelli does show, he likes to ride hot hands and he likes to play, the sabermetrics game too. So that could be a situation. And who knows? Maybe Tyler Duffy sneaks in and steals all the saves.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. That's the nature of bullpens today.
Well, Mike, I think you took us through every single MLB bullpen there is. We do appreciate you shedding some light. That's good insight there. I'm definitely going to be coming back and listening to all of your parts, not any of mine or Michael's, but especially yours. But we are going to get to our last part of the podcast here tonight, and that is the ancient and storied tradition that we like to call the Mike the Doc Carter Facts. They're 5 of the hardest hitting Jeopardy-like questions that we have ever thought up. So Michael always likes to lead it off here. So take it away, Mike.
All right, Mike, what is your best personal sports achievement?
My best personal sports achievement. I would say it was probably my freshman year of high school. I hit a home run off of the school bully, the guy who had antagonized me for like 8 years.
Yes.
And I ran into one, and it wrapped right around the right field foul pole. I was doing the Carlton Fisk, but except I was going the opposite way, the other way, trying to get it to stay fair, and it did.
Love it.
It was really stupid, but yeah, that's about as good as it got.
The little things,
it is true. It is true. I'm going to skip around here. I know that I have a W flag hanging out in my what many people online are saying looks like a shipping container that I'm podcasting in right now. But
you probably get better reception in your shipping.
If you get better reception in the shipping container, that is the only space in the house that I have to do this. But I'm not a Cubs fan anymore. I'm with you, Mike. I'm with the South Side here. So give me your prediction of the White Sox team this year. How far do they go this year?
I think they're going to make the playoffs, which is not really going out on a limb. I think it's going to come down to whether or not they're able to add pitching at the trade deadline. I love their big three. I'm not totally enamored with Cease and Kopech. I think that they're going to try to see what they can get out of those guys, if anything, before they make a move. They're going to need another arm. And if they get that, I think that they could have a really deep playoff run. However, the one problem with this team is they strike out a lot. And that's going to be an issue in the playoffs if they don't rectify that. They do have, in my opinion, I think they're going to have one of the 5 best bullpens in the game. And I think that will help, cover up some of Cease's and Kopech's and Rodon's deficiencies for a little while. But I think that they're going to make a deep playoff run. I think that they'll get to the championship series and lose. I don't think they're going to make it to the World Series.
Carlos Marcano's here. He's talking about Jake Odorizzi. I think that would, yes, I agree. Do you agree with that, Mike? Would it be nice to have him in there?
Sign him to a 1-year contract. See what you get out of him. He'd have to. All he has to be for them is a number 4. They got 3 good starters.
Yeah. All right, Mike. I love your post about your son Jack. So give us one of your favorite moments with him.
My favorite Jack story.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll have to make this a quick one. So a couple of years ago, my brother gets us to go into the Wisconsin Dells, which is a big thing in the Midwest. Michael, I know you don't know what that is, but it's like a resort with water parks and stuff like that for the kids and stuff like that. You stay on the resort. Basically what happens is by day, you get the kids riding the water slides. About 6, you go home and have dinner, and then you just get completely trashed and annihilated until about midnight, which is right up my alley. So a couple of years ago, we went out and I have 5 nieces and nephews. 4 nieces. And they had this guy that was doing airbrush tattoos. And the kids were getting butterflies and, dragons and stuff on their arms. And Jack picked out a full house of cards and took his shirt off and had him tattoo it on his chest.
That's awesome.
The next day we went to the water park, and I had like 3 different people ask me if that was a real tattoo.
Oh my gosh!
And he was like 4. So I'm like, yeah, parent of the year over here. School administrator getting my kid tattooed at age 4.
That is great.
Yeah,
he's wild.
He's a riot, man. The stuff you never know what's going to come out of his mouth, and you better be ready.
It's awesome. You need to meet him one day.
Yeah, you will.
He's supposed to come on and be a guest for the On the Bump. So
he's shy. I asked him to do that. He said, he goes, I don't want to do that. People are going to make fun of me. I go, nobody's going to make fun of you.
Yeah, of course.
Just me. I'll make fun of you.
Mike, take me through one of your favorite beers. You talk about going to the Dells and throwing a few back. What's your go-to for the beers?
My all-time favorite beer is this thing from Three Floyds called Zombie Dust. It's an IPA. It's my favorite beer. I have gone far and wide to find it. My local liquor store here, unfortunately, they know me by name. And every Friday when I walk in there, they've got a 6-pack of Zombie Dust for me. It's like $13.99 a 6-pack, and I treat that stuff like gold around here. That's probably my go-to. There's another really good one out by you, Doug, called Solemn Oath. And they've got a couple of really good ones too. Snaggletooth Bandana is one that I really like. And also Dave Swan and I really like this one called Penrose, which is in Geneva, Illinois, which is about 10 minutes north of where I am here. And they have a really good taproom IPA as well. Dave, if you're listening, we got to hook up and get there now that things are starting to open up in Illinois again. Everybody will think I'm Dave's dad, though, because I'm the old guy everywhere I go.
All right, Mike, we got one last question for you. Give us one of your favorite Twitter accounts to follow that you think is underrated.
Ooh.
It's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
I feel like if someone asked me this, I wouldn't be able to answer off the top of my head.
you know who I absolutely love is Dave McDonald. And I don't know if he's underfollowed or not, but he's somebody that I really look forward to seeing what he posts as well. I also have a friend that's not in the fantasy baseball industry named C.W. Harris, who is a guy who lives in Chicago. He's a marketing guy. He's brilliant. He's super funny. Really great takes on life, and he's really good. So, yeah, that's a tough question, man. I hadn't really thought about that. My other friend, too, in Batavia is named Brian Turnbull. He's a high school English teacher. He's super witty and very funny. And, of course, can't forget to leave out my daughter, Ellie, who responds to my tweets even though she has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. So she's like, I'm glad that you have some friends.
Oh, gosh.
That's what she tells me. So, yeah, there's a lot of really great ones out there, but those are ones that kind of leap out to mind. Derek Rhodes is another one that I've been following the last few months. Yep. He seems like a brilliant guy to me. So I really just try to surround myself, as I do with you guys, with people who are far smarter than I am. And that usually goes a lot better for me. So before we wrap up, I want to say thank you to you guys for having me on. You guys have had some heavy hitters on in the last few months, and to even be considered to be part of these things with you guys is so flattering to me and so much fun for me. I really enjoy it. And I thank you, Michael. You gave me a start doing this stuff a year ago, and I always owe you a debt of gratitude for getting me going on that. It's been so much more than I ever thought it would be. Everybody in the industry has been so kind and welcoming for the most part. Govia gives me a hard time sometimes, but I'm kidding. But I love it, and it's been really fun. It's something I never thought was going to happen in my life, being the age that I am, and going down the road. So I appreciate you guys and what you do. You're doing great work, and keep it up. Anytime you want me to come on, Doug, for the on the bumps, you know where I'm at, bud.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. You don't need to thank us, man. You're one of the best.
Yeah,
and it all boils down to kindness as well as honesty and putting yourself out there, and that's exactly what you've done. You've always been a guy that we could always turn to ask for advice, and you're always out there giving good positive feedback to everybody. And I think that that's something that isn't always seen through Twitter at times. Many people think that it's kind of like a cesspool of negativity, but you always bring the light. You're always highlighting other people's work. You're never promoting your own stuff, and you should, because you are, as Carlos says, a rock star, and we do appreciate you being
that's
here.
kind, man. Carlos
is one of the best. He's a great guy. But before we get out of here today, any final thoughts, plugs, or mentions of what you'll be up to in the future? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so I'm still doing the stuff over at Roto Fanatic. I got sometime this week, I hope, about a 3,800 word piece coming out on bullpens. So if this didn't exhaust you enough, we can take a look at that as well. And so that'll be coming out, and I'll be doing the closing remarks again, as you pointed out earlier, Doug, for Roto Fanatic. I also hope to be able to do some other pieces for them. I did a couple of other ones in the news, big signings or cuts that happened during the course of the year that weren't necessarily bullpen related. So I want to try to kind of get a little bit more variety other than, the bullpens is what I do, which is cool, but I need to know more and keep learning more. I'm also continuing to work for the 980 Know-It-All site, which is a site based in the Pacific Northwest, focusing on all things that are baseball. I'll have a piece coming out about, and sometime next week, I hope, about my dinners with Ozzie Guillen and Dusty Baker. So that'll be kind of fun to write in and get that down on paper. You can imagine they were really thrilled to get away from me by the end of the night, because all I did was talk. So, but those are fun. So I'm doing those things, and I'm up for anything, as you guys know. So I love doing these podcasts and talking with other people about baseball. I mean, it's just it doesn't get any better than that for me.
You're right. We do appreciate you being on tonight.
Yeah, before we go, Mike, I want to say you got to give yourself a little more credit, because you really know your stuff, man. I feel like since I stream every day, I weirdly know off the top of my head when when like offenses are hot or cold and what these weird pitchers are doing and stuff. And like, since you do relief pitching and bullpens are, every week during the season, what's going on. I mean, you said several things in this podcast that I had no idea of, just little things. So I just want to say, give yourself some more credit, man. You belong in this community. So
I love it.
Don't be surprised when people invite you on the podcast to talk about anything, because you're a really smart dude. And, I think you're smarter than me.
Oh God, well, I don't know about that, but I really appreciate the kind words. And it's if you're gonna do it, right? Don't do it half-assed. Get into it and understand what it is. And I learned that from you right off the bat, and other people that I've been able to work with too. So let's get after it. Have a good fantasy season this year, and I look forward to talking with you guys again in the very near future.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. I will be calling you for On the Bumps when Michael decides that he doesn't want to talk to me as many times as we do during the season. So gear up, get ready.
Doug, do you remember that one time that we did it early in the summer when your dad was in the background?
Yes.
You were recording when you were on vacation.
Yes.
And we were doing one and your dad was like behind you and he was like,
he's like waving. Yes, I know.
That was awesome.
That's awesome.
It was our best
really
episode ever, Michael.
Oh my God! I think, if I recall correctly, I think I also had the wrong teams. You had told me two teams that I wrote it down incorrectly, and I was like, "Hey, we're going to talk about Cincinnati." You're like, no, we're talking about Philadelphia. I'm like, "Oh shit!" Give it real quick. Can you give me 5 minutes? I'll do some.
And you came back, and you kicked it in the tail. And so that's what we appreciate about you, Mike. You're a good sport. Thanks for being again here with us tonight on the SP Streamer podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me anytime.
Michael Simeone, good chat today, my friend. Good job.
Yeah, I can't wait to go watch more Survivor now.
Oh, there you go. You're like a young.
I'm like sick. I watched like 5 episodes today.
What season did you start on?
Netflix only has 2 of them. I think I started season 20.
Okay, you're in good hands.
No,
you're
18. I think it's 18. Sorry.
Yeah, you're like Frodo Baggins. You got a long journey ahead of you. Just get to Mount Doom, have a good time. Everybody who's still tuning in and listening, especially in auto format, join the SP Streamer Discord. We're up to well over 100 members. That thing is growing every single day. Mike Carter's in there as well.
200, Doug.
We're approaching
it's amazing.
200.
Oh my God, it's so great.
It is 24/7 baseball mixed in with me asking Rob DiPietro who I should be drafting. If you're going to ask somebody, you got to ask Rob DiPietro, DC draft champion there. But the sale for the kit has already begun. It's going on right now. Make sure that you get in there. It's $4.50. We are also so happy to once again tell you about Solo Stove. Mike, have you heard about Solo Stove?
No, I have not. Please tell me more.
God. You're in Chicago. It's cold. I know it's warming up, but winter is sadly still here. So don't think that it's gone away just because we've had a nice day here. But by going to our link, you can make it a bit better by getting your hands on the most beautiful, awesome stainless steel, near smokeless fire pits. Michael Simeone, tell me that this is the week that you warmed up outside next to one-of-a-kind Solo Stove, drinking bourbon, and listening to the Backstreet Boys' greatest hits. Tell me.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I would, but the problem is in New York, we get snow like every day now, so it's a little hard to do that.
All right. It's still in a box in his garage. But you, folks listening, can use the specific SP Streamer link, which we will provide and make your backyard toasty warm and fantastic looking, as that's all there is for today's episode of the SP Streamer Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Thanks again for listening, everyone. And as always, if you enjoyed this podcast on a platform that allows you to subscribe, share, and review us, we would truly appreciate it. Hang out with us. We got a second round matchup, I think, with Friends with Fantasy Benefits coming up. Justin Mason's little podcast that he's got going on there. Continue supporting us. We love you. We appreciate you. We side hug you. But for Mike Carter and Michael Simeone, I'm Doug Ishikawa. Hope to catch you all in a moment. But in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and we will see you soon.